Joan Marie Severance is an American actress and former fashion model. Premise: a biotechnology corporation, Lumen Industries, uses a severance medical procedure to separate the non-work memories of some of their employees from their work memories. One severed employee, Mark, gradually uncovers a web of conspiracy from both sides of the division. Cast and characters. Main: Adam Scott as Mark S., a worker for Lumen Industries in the macrodata refinement division who is part of the severance program, whose outie, Mark Scout, is grieving the death of his wife Gemma. Zach Cherry as Dylan George, Mark's severed co-worker who particularly enjoys company perks. Britt Lower as Helly R., a new employee who replaces Petey, whose outie is Helena Egan, the amoral daughter of Lumen CEO James Egan. Trammell Tillman as Seth Milchick, the supervisor on the severed floor. Jen Tulloch as Devon Hale, Mark's pregnant sister, who later gives birth to baby Eleanor. Dyken Lockman as Ms. Casey, the wellness counselor on the severed floor, whose outie is Gemma, Mark's supposedly deceased wife. Michael Chernus as Rickon Hale, Devon's husband and Mark's brother-in-law, a self-help author, whose book is left on the severed floor by Coble. John Turturro as Irving Bailiff, Mark's severed co-worker who is a stickler for company policy and is drawn to Bert. Christopher Walken as Bert Goodman, the severed chief of the optics and design division who is drawn to Irving. Patricia Arquette as Harmony Coble, Mark's unsevered boss, who outside of work goes undercover as Mrs. Selvig, Mark's next-door neighbor. Recurring: Yoel Vasquez as Peter Petey Kilmer, an ex-severed Lumen worker and Mark's best friend who was fired under mysterious circumstances. Michael Kumpsty as Doug Grainer, the head of security on Lumen's severed floor. Nikki M. James as Alexa, Devon's midwife. Sydney Cole Alexander as Natalie, Lumen's PR representative and liaison for its board of trustees. Nora Dale as Gabby Arteta, a new mother married to Senator Angelo Arteta. She underwent severance to avoid the pain of childbirth. Claudia Robinson as Felicia, optics employee at Lumen. Mark Kenneth Smaltz as Judd, security guard at Lumen. Guest: Mark Geller as Keir Egan, the founder of Lumen Industries, who is worshipped with cult-like devotion within the company. Despite his death, he is represented through sculptures, paintings, and recordings. Michael Siberi as James Egan, the current CEO of Lumen Industries. Joanne Kelly as Nina, Petty's ex-wife. Cassidy Layton as June, Petty's daughter. Ethan Flower as Angelo Arteta, a Lumen-backed state senator who supports legalizing the severance procedure and is married to Gabby Arteta, with whom he has 3 children. Karen Aldridge as Reghabi, a former Lumen surgeon who reintegrated Petey. Ben Stiller has an uncredited voice cameo as an animated version of Keir Egan. Episodes. Production. Development. Ben Stiller first read the screenplay to the pilot episode at least 5 years before the show premiered, calling it the longest thing I've ever worked on. The script was submitted by Dan Erickson as a writing sample to Stiller's production company Red Hour Productions, and passed to Stiller by development executive Jackie Cohn. Stiller said he enjoyed the story's contributions to the workplace comedy. In January 2017, Stiller invited Adam Scott to star. In November 2019, Apple TV gave Severance a series order, with Stiller directing and Scott cast in the leading role. Stiller was only attached to direct the pilot, but he decided to direct several more episodes as the series entered development. On April 6, 2022, Apple renewed the series for a second season. Filming. The COVID-19 pandemic postponed the initial production start of March 2020. Principal photography for the first season started in New York City under the working title Tumwater on November 8, 2020. the day after the U.S. presidential election. The opening scene of the show was shot on January 6, 2021. The series filmed for a few days in Nyack in February and in Kingston and Beacon in March. In April, filming moved to central New Jersey, mainly in the Bell Labs home Dell complex which stood in for Lumen HQ. Filming was scheduled to conclude on June 23, 2021. Production designer Jeremy Hindle blended corporate looks from the 1960s, 1970s, and 1980s for the show's distinctive look, and cited modernist architect Eero Saarinen as influential for the building design. Stiller said the prop master reconstructed old computers so the actors could actually do the work presented on the show in order to get adjusted to the office setting. These computers lacked an escape key, as a metaphor for the lack of control the innies have while in Lumen's offices. The second season began filming on October 3, 2022, in New York City, and is set to wrap on May 12, 2023. The second season will also shoot in New Jersey. Casting. In January 2020, Patricia Arquette, Britt Lower, Jen Tulloch, and Zach Cherry were added to the cast. Trammell Tillman joined in February 2020, and John Turturro and Christopher Walken were added in November 2020. Daikon Lockman was cast in December 2020. Turturro said he recommended Walken for the role of Bert because he had known him for a long time and I don't have to really act like we're friends. On October 31, 2022, Gwendolyn Christie, Bob Balaban, Merritt Weaver, Alia Shokot, Robbie Benson, Stefano Carananti, Olafur Darri Olafsson and John Noble was announced to have joined the cast for Season 2. Influences. Modern media that influenced Severance include the online urban legend known as The Backrooms, the video game The Stanley Parable, films including Brazil, The Truman Show, and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and the Dilbert comic strips. Older influences include the existential hell in the Jean-Paul Sartre play No Exit and the totalitarian dystopia in the George Orwell novel 1984. Aesthetically, the series was influenced by the films Brazil, Dark City, Playtime, and other films by Terry Gilliam. Reception. Critical response. Severance was met with critical acclaim upon its release. On the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, 97% of 100 critics' reviews are positive, with an average rating of 8.5/10. The website's consensus reads, "Audacious, mysterious, and bringing fresh insight into the perils of corporate drudgery, Severance is the complete package." Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned a score of 83 out of 100 based on 36 critics, indicating universal acclaim. The series received a rating of 5 out of 5 stars from Lucy Mangan of The Guardian and Rachel Sagi of I, 4 out of 5 stars from Huff Fullerton of Radio Times, John Nugent of Empire, Alan Sepinwall of Rolling Stone and Anita Singh of The Telegraph, and 3.5 out of 4 stars from Patrick Ryan of USA Today. In her review, Mangan praised Stiller's direction, the writing, and the performances of the cast. Sagi also praised the performances, especially Scott's, Arquette's, Turturro's and Walken's, and wrote, "Severance moves slowly but surely, allowing time to absorb both the impressive world-building and stunning visuals, its breathtaking cinematography and design. With an exceptional cast, this is an original, weird, thought-provoking, and beautifully crafted story that asks just how much of ourselves we should give over to our jobs." Fullerton also praised Scott's performance and called the series an impressive creation. Nugent praised the direction, performances of Scott, Arquette, Turturro, and Walken, and chemistry between the latter two. Sepinwall also praised Stiller's direction and the cast's performances, in addition to the production design, tone, and season finale. Grading the series with an A, Carly Lane of Collider stated that the most engrossing element of Severance is the many mysteries it presents, wrapped up in silent overarching questions of philosophy, morality, and free will versus choice, and as the series demonstrates, some of those questions aren't so easily solved, but some issues aren't as black and white as initially presented either. Also grading it with an A, Ben Traverse of IndieWire said, "Whether you invest in the allegory, character arcs, or both, Severance hits its marks." Erickson and his writing staff deserve a ton of credit. The season plays out cleanly and efficiently, episodes range from nearly 60 minutes to a crisp 40, cliffhangers abound, but they're earned. This is serialized storytelling that knows how to make the most of its episodic format. Stephen Robinson of the AV Club gave it an A grade and praised Stiller's direction and the cast, with the performances of Lower, Scott, Tillman, Turturro, Walken, Tulloch and Cherry being singled out. From Entertainment Weekly, Kristen Baldwin graded it with a B+ and highlighted the performances of Scott, Lower, and Tillman, saying that Scott is a superb fit for Severance's central everyman, Lower brings an effective vulnerability to the acerbic heli, and Trammell Tillman is an absolute force of charisma as Milchick. Giving the series an amazing score of 9 out of 10, Samantha Nelson of IGN wrote in her verdict, "Severance uses a clever premise and excellent cast to set up an intriguing mystery that leaves plenty of room for the characters to evolve." Writing for Paste, Shane Ryan gave it an 8.1 out of 10 and praised the performances of Scott, Arquette, and Tillman as well as Stiller and McArdle's direction. Kyle Mullen of Under the Radar gave it an 8 out of 10 and said, "Severance's writer/creator Dan Erickson is another newcomer who pens scenes with veteran-level aplomb. Every scene is a golden age of TV gem in its own right. But Severance's dramatic heart resides at the workplace, where it also becomes a white-knuckle thriller. This is where director Ben Stiller especially shines, training his lens and setting the scenes. He certainly brings the best out of his cast." Accolades. Marketing. The second season was teased during the Apple event that took place on September 7, 2022, which featured Heli.